And here we are at 6 o'clock. I am happy to see everybody in. Thank you very much for stopping by. This is Wills versus Trust, proper estate planning. I put that proper word in there for a reason. We're not going to be able to cover all of estate planning here tonight. I'm going to pretty much focus on one of the areas that I think is most misunderstood, which is wills versus trusts. And then we'll talk a little bit about some of those other things that we can really get into more in the second meeting. This is the greatest gift. If you're married, I mean, we've been married for 30, 40, 50 years. Definitely want to take care of each other. When we both are gone, we obviously want to pass along a legacy to the kids. So we're going to talk about how to avoid common estate planning mistakes. We're going to talk about how you can outline your wishes. We're going to talk about communicating your values and goals. You've worked hard to put this estate together. Why would you just pass it along and let someone else make decisions for you? Maybe a judge or jury, or lawyers, which would be probate. Maybe it'd be your kids fighting over it. I mean, there's things that you can do to make sure that your estate stays your estate. You're in charge of it. How you can help your loved ones tomorrow. But also, estate plan means we're going to help you today. So whatever funds that you don't use in your estate plan go on to the kids. But let's first make sure that you're taken care of. We're going to talk about the elements and components of a real estate plan. I see so much trash coming in. In fact, most trusts and wills that I see come into the office actually today are confetti. They're gone. Because we have one. Yeah, well, it's 10 years old and it's never been updated. It's not properly executed. Now, one of the things that's the hardest part of this whole process, trust the process. We do this every day. This is what we do to help people, is educate people on how you can go through this process. It's not daunting. It's not hard. If you work with experts, in fact, all you basically are doing is getting educated and then making great decisions. You make better decisions when you have an education. Been doing this for 21 years, almost 22 now in financial services. That was after 20 years of running the corporate P&L and doing all those kind of corporate world things. We have a huge team of experts, CFAs, CFPs, MBAs, CPAs. You're going to see in a second how important that is. We have billions of dollars worth of successes, over 15 billion. And when I'm not working with clients, which I love to do most of anything in the whole world, I love golf. I love my family. I've got 3 kids and 8 grandkids and 3 doodles of mine. Plus, I think total between the family, we got 6 doodles. So we got doodles everywhere. You're going to meet a guy named James Jurica. This guy has got every diploma in the world. He went through high school wanting to be a retirement planner, financial advisor. That was his whole goal. He went through college. He got all kinds of diplomas. He got out of college. He put every initial in the alphabet after his name. He is an expert at this. Now, I'm going to make a disclosure right here. We're going to talk about legal issues. We are not lawyers. James and I understand estate planning. James is a licensed estate planner. James understands everything about what goes into an estate plan. So if you're at a webinar right now, and let's say you had a health issue, you'd want the person that's talking in the webinar to be an expert, right? Well, that's who we are. But tonight we're educators. MyFit Financial is my platform for educating people on retirement issues. Been doing it for a long time. Used to be at universities, and now we got the whole internet. We got people from 14 or 15 different states with us tonight. Thanks for joining us. Now, our focus is on you. This whole chart here, your attorney, your CPA, insurance specialist, wealth management team, investment managers, and independent custodian. That's the team that you need to make sure that you're putting together a proper estate plan. Now, they all cost $200, $250 an hour a piece. That was my problem back when I started this whole thing, was I had to do it for my mom and for me. And you can't get all these people in one room to talk to them. We did. We have them all in-house. Do they charge you? No, we don't charge clients for those services. We'll help you go through that. But when you have all these people training you, educating you, asking you questions, what do you want? What are your needs? What are your goals? Avoiding mistakes, finding out hidden pitfalls. That's when you can put together a competent plan, then sit down and talk about it and say, how does this work for me? That's our team. We've got a lot of expert team probably on this page and the next page, over 150, 200 years worth of experience. These people are dedicated to helping you succeed. Personal story. My dad died at 56. I was only 24. My mom was 53. She had never even cashed a check. She had never really even written a check. She had no idea what was going on. So I got an extremely fast education in retirement and estate planning. Obviously, day one, got a call on Tuesday at night and found out my dad had passed. Other stories over the past 22 years. Long time ago, a client's mom died at 93. Dad died 2 years later in Pennsylvania. I begged him to get dad to do an estate plan before he passed away. He was getting older. It was going to happen. When he passed away, it was a nightmare. He didn't do it. My client did not know where all their assets were. We couldn't even find, he had like 5 life insurance policies. We couldn't find them. He wouldn't tell his son. His son didn't go make him do it. His only child. Probate took 9 months, cost him well over $100,000, and he still doesn't have a clue whether he actually found everything. That's just unnecessary, folks. We have to get involved and we got to make these things happen. So who do we work with? We work with conservative investors. I'm not getting political here. Conservative buy finances, protecting lifestyle. Don't bet the farm. Peace of mind, proactive, informed, open to learn and act. People say, well, I don't know. I feel dumb. No, you're not dumb. You're very, very smart. I work with a lot of gals that are very, very smart. They just have never been exposed to it. Work with someone who will show you all the options, not sell you something. Educate you. Then you'll make great decisions. Return on relationship versus return on investment. When we get to this phase in life, folks, we have to build trust. You have to know that what you're doing is correct. It is the best way for you to go. And that's by seeing all options available. Success, being successful is by choice. What's a conservative investor want? He wants income for life, preservation, growth, tax, pay the least amount of taxes, and a legacy estate plan that we're going to talk about tonight. All those other things are part of a estate plan once you become retired. This is what we all want, the love boat. You have nothing to worry about. It's going to be smooth sailing. But in reality, it's not. What is your real reality? Do you really understand the reality? You know, I had people a couple months ago losing crazy amounts of money, and they didn't even want to open the statements. They're scared about it. We have to know what reality is all about. I got to go really fast tonight too, folks. I'm going to have to apologize because we got so much information and so little time to get that information out. So top 10 investment estate planning mistakes. Number 1, failing to plan. Do nothing. That's never worked so far. Don't do it now. Select the correct type of trust. There's a lot of different types of trusts. Irrevocable, revocable. What's the difference between those two? We're not going to go into really specifics right now. Which one that is right for you is real easy to determine. We'll do that in part 2. Properly funding a trust. So many people have a trust, but they didn't put anything in it. A trust is like a box. You've got a box, that's a trust. But the only way it's funded is you got to put stuff in the trust. So it's got to be probably funded. You got the right documents, but you got the wrong beneficiaries. It's got to be updated. You got to make sure that we're going to go through that tonight. Tax planning is part of estate planning. You just don't want to pass those taxes along. There's ways right now that we can determine and minimize those. Powers of attorney, medical and financial. What if something happened to you tomorrow and your son had to take care of you and he had to go get some cash to pay bills? Can't go to the bank without a power of attorney. So you have to have these things in place. Got to discuss all of this with the family. Got to name a trustee. That trustee has to be someone who can carry out that mission. there's assignments, there's tax record keeping, there's communication between, there's fiduciary duty to the family of, making sure that that your wishes are carried out correctly. You forget your final arrangements. How do you want to, you need to decide that now. I got that thrust on me. My dad had just died. I got to get home. They lived in Chicago, snowing like mad, and I had to go make funeral arrangements. Why wasn't that made in advance? Well, 56, he didn't really think about that. So charities, grandkids, how do you want to carry these things out? This is your estate plan. This is your wishes that will be carried out forever, for life, past life. Failing to work with a good advisory team. The best way to make mistakes is don't work with professional advisors or DIY. Try to do it yourself. No, don't do that. And then you got to update your plan frequently. Most plans are way out of date. Successes plan. Successful people plan. I don't see people coming into the office who have tremendous amounts of money that haven't had planning put in place. It will happen that way, not by accident. You got to understand, where are you today? So let's talk about in part 2, what your plan is. Know your needs, goals, and a path to success. How do you fix the problems? Well, you can't fix problems until you know problems exist. You got to take control, build confidence, and then communicate. And maybe I'll even get that word spelled correctly. Sorry about that. Tangible reasons for a good estate plan. Avoid unnecessary legal costs and delays of probate. Period of the story. Number 1. It's horrible. I had someone die during COVID who was supposed to be coming in to sign their trust, have a handicapped child, disability trust for the child, had a life insurance policy for $1.5 million for the child. He got COVID on Tuesday and died on Saturday. We just don't know when this is going to happen. He was in probate for 1.5 years. Why? Family was fighting over assets. Ex-wife, taking care of the handicapped child is terrible. You can avoid additional or unnecessary tax losses. The IRS, in most people's case, are the number 1 beneficiary on your retirement plan. It doesn't have to be. There's things you can do about that. You can assure your wishes. I had a couple that we talked to last week. They just sold a business. Luckily, 30 days ago, a couple $1 million, a lot of money. They're going to owe 20% on that, $400,000. No, you don't. There's a way to put that into a trust right now and push that on down the road and maybe push it off into a certain forever. This is what we want to talk about specifically about you. You got to protect your legacy. You've got to take action today to protect your legacy for tomorrow. It's not that hard. You're here. First bite of an elephant. How do we do the rest? Let's just keep going. So some real quick statistics. We all kind of know the federal estate tax exemption now is 11.4 million single, 22.8 million for a couple, effective in 2019. Don't know how long that's going to last. Let's plan on that it won't. We always plan on the worst case scenario and expect the best, but let's go ahead and do something about it based on what we're here at today. And then our people always update you on new tax laws so that in case there's something that need to be changed on your trust, you can go ahead and do that, or your will. We'll talk about will and trust here in a minute. Real reasons for good estate planning. Relieve the loved ones from making tough emotional decisions. My mom was nowhere near prepared when my dad died to make any kind of decision. So we had to come in, a 24-year-old kid. I just got out of college. I didn't know what was going on. I was just getting married and starting a family. It was too much. All that could have been made. All those decisions could have been made the way you want them to be made ahead of time. You can avoid or reduce family tensions and potential infighting. I mean, besides the whole financial loss problem of not having a plan in place, it's really just the fighting. I had a lady who heard the presentation. She called. Her husband had died. He actually was a financial advisor. He had 2 or 3 older wills. When you do a new will, they do a will that would cancel all the old wills. So that's one thing you got to know the proper terminology when you're talking about that. Inside of a trust, there will always be a will that will get rid of everything up until that day. Anything that was signed prior is gone away. He had been married before. He had children from a previous marriage that were, well, they hadn't really seen them. They were not in good terms. So, but he hadn't put that together. Well, what happened when he died? Well, everybody gets invited to the funeral, and then everybody got invited to the probate court. And the kids filed a lawsuit. She'd been in probate for 9 months. She'd spent tens of thousands of dollars on attorney fees, and the attorney finally was rolling over, giving up, saying, you just give them half the estate. That's millions dollar. $1 million, well, it's probably over $1 million. She was like, no, I'm not going to do that. That's not what he wanted. My estate attorney, board certified attorney, got involved and got her case dismissed 100% in 2 weeks. But the really good reason for making a plan now the way you want it is to avoid lawyers and judges deciding what is going to happen to your estate. Not to mention the lawsuits. So, like, divorce, marriage, your daughter's ex-husband could come when you die and come to probate court and say, hey, he promised me $500,000. Now you got to prove him wrong. How long is that going to take? How long is that going to tie the estate up? They're not letting one penny go out of that estate until it's decided. So decide that now, in your words, in your way, and then it's irrefutable. They can't come back in and say, well, wait a minute, he said this or he had this piece of paper. The trust is the guiding light. Now, your beneficiaries and IRAs, and that we'll talk about that. That is the golden truth there. Those go to where the beneficiaries are. So having your beneficiaries in order, we'll talk about that here in a minute. All these things blend together into a plan. Allows the loved ones to transition through their loss peacefully, following your plan. I'm going to say that over and over and over again. Don't leave it open. Oh, well, the kids will just decide all that. That's not the way to do it. Tools of a good estate plan: wills versus trusts, clear disposition of all of your assets, current and accurate beneficiary designations on all of your IRAs, etc., that don't go into the trust, as well as beneficiary designations inside of the trust. Transfer TOD on death. We want to make sure that happens so that you can have that transfer immediate. It's still going to take in probate 90 days minimum without any kind of conflicts. Remember, the entire estate will be tied up. Now, the COVID client of mine that passed away, they couldn't get at any of the assets. They couldn't even pay the fees on different life insurance policies and different things that had to be done. They couldn't pay fees on this brokerage accounts. They had to go borrow money because everything had been messed up by him passing away without having this transfer on death type of a trust in place. Durable powers of attorney for finances and health care in case of disability. Son, I finally got the son Tuesday. I called him. Finally, he went over on Friday to see dad, found dad laying on the floor, had to call 911, got him to the hospital. They put him in a drug-induced coma. That's really problematic without a spouse to be able to do these things. They had to save his life, but they had to put him on a drug-induced coma, and he died several hours later. These types of powers of attorney must be in place. Then when they went to try to pay his bills and different things, they couldn't get at the bank assets because they didn't have a financial power of attorney in place. It just a real mess. Per capita versus per stirpes. Per capita means it kind of goes down the so in succession. So it goes from you to the spouse, from the spouse to the kids, from the kids to the grandkids. But per stirpes will change it a little bit in terms of it's going to go by bloodline. So like that son-in-law who was divorced, but he's definitely in line to take the children back in case something happened to your daughter. Let's say your daughter passed away. Well, now he is the beneficiary for your daughter, not the grandkids. So, we got to be really careful about who you really want to have get your money. I like my son-in-law. He's going to have his family's money. I would want my estate to go bypass him if something happened to my daughter and go to my grandchildren, and my son's the executor, and he'll make sure that all happens. Probate court. The purpose is to decide the legitimacy of a will. If they can throw it out, most times they get thrown out. You hear about it on the radio all the time. People like Ernst & Young, the founders of that company died without a will, and their estate got ate up. Elvis Presley died without a will, and his estate got ate up. Every woman dyed their kid's hair black and brought him into court and said, "Hey, it's Elvis's son. Give me money." Didn't have DNA back then, so it was pretty tough. The process, the assets are made public. This is really big for a lot of conservative people. Do you want all of your information in the newspaper? There's the obituaries on the side of the page, and there's all of these court filings on the other side of the page. Well, that's where your probate is going to be listed, and then all the details of your estate are going to come out. So if you'd like to have all that remain between you and your family, second thing, besides the length of the probate court, the cost of the probate court, a lot of people don't want their claims reviewed in court and public records and decided by some judge. The assets are passed via will or when no will exists. You got to have a trust. You got to have a will. You have to have all these things spelled out in advance. Otherwise, the courts they're stuck. If you have a trust, probate, there is no probate. There's no need for it. But so many times, so many mistakes are made with trusts that people have that aren't prepared by a board certified or experienced trust company that then the trust can be sued, because and if there's something wrong inside the trust, it can actually be thrown out. So make sure that you have a properly executed trust, and it avoids expensive, often lengthy delays at the one time in life when there shouldn't be all these things going on. Living trusts revocable. They're to manage assets from the grave. You get your wishes carried out. You don't want your assets to be public, so it's all private. Doesn't have to go to court. To make the process easier on your heirs, they get what you gave them, and that's it. There's no arguing about it. You can change it because it's revocable during your lifetime. You're your own trustee. You name it your successor. It's harder to contest. The cons are that it's not for high net worth, super high net worth people, because it's harder to save on taxes if you're over those estate tax provision thresholds, and it's more complex to draw up and manage. But today they're really standard form. The time is really put into it with your advisor group of what you want to go into trust and how you want your assets to be distributed, and have your legacy help your family or your charity or your church or the different places that you can send those you can use those funds for things that you care about. Living trusts irrevocable for cases may be advantage to not having access to the asset. These are for large high net worth families. You stay under the estate tax thresholds through living irrevocable trusts. You try to protect asset from Medicaid spend down, which is not something that high net worth people have to worry about, but it is something that you can use for low net worth too, for Medicaid spend down. A drawback is, it's irrevocable for your lifetime. You can't make changes. Your spouse can't make changes, et cetera, et cetera. So this is something that you really have to be careful about in picking which trust that you need to have, which trust is going to service your needs for your family the best. We have everybody from all walks of life on here, from all different needs, from all different income and net worths. So really speculative for me to even say anything about that. But in part two, they're going to put up a Calendly link right now. It's a two-part process. Part one is we sit down together and we talk about these different things in generality. Part two is we sit down for 30 minutes and answer questions and talk a little bit more about you. So that Calendly link is up for that. You can click on it. It's no charge. It's no obligation. But without really sitting down and talking about it, every time I speak to someone who doesn't make an appointment, why didn't you make an appointment? Well, I didn't think you could help me. Well, I thought this. Well, I talked to my husband. He said, no, we don't need to do this. Every single time that happens, they're exactly 100% wrong. It's just excuses. Spend 30 minutes together, an hour together. At the end of that period of time, you'll know if we ever have to speak about this again. Special needs trust, like this gentleman who had a fully handicapped daughter. Got to be careful how you set up your estate plan so that you don't take away some of the special needs trust's ability to get aid and assistance. It got to be properly set up so that when he or she inherits those assets, that it doesn't really change what they're currently getting for assistance from Medicaid, Social Security, et cetera, et cetera. Trustee must be appointed for those assets, but this is something that a lot of people have to worry about, and it's something that you can do to make sure that your children and grandchildren are taken care of. Durable power of attorney is it's a way to put assets in a child's name. Some people don't want to pass or don't need to pass the monies on to the children. They want to pass it on to the children, to the grandchildren. So there's a way to put those things into place. There's also springing powers of attorney, which we talked about, for your financial and for your medical. So you have a little problem, go into the hospital for a major surgery, maybe a stroke or something like that. The power of attorney springs into action. For like my son as the trustee, he can now have medical oversight. He can have financial oversight, go to the bank, etc. As soon as I'm back and I'm well, springs right back out. So the purpose is to appoint someone to make those decisions on your behalf in case you become incapacitated. My dad was 56, didn't think it was going to happen. It did. Unfortunately, the worst thing that could happen did happen. Advanced directive for healthcare and living will. We talked about that. So you can make sure that you have all these things. Someone can make these decisions for you. So like that son that the father had to go in 911, had to go in the hospital, went in intensive care, had to put him on life support system, had to put him in drug-induced coma. Those things were all taken care of. They also, if he had a financial power of attorney, could have gone to the bank and could have got some funds to help dad, pay the bills and all that. The kids really weren't capable of taking care of those financial obligations. So having access to those funds is really important. The basics of a good estate plan: a living trust, period and story. Now, do I need a living trust? Okay, I asked a state attorney that once. He said, if you have over $100,000 in assets, besides all of the complications and delays and all the other things, if you have over $100,000 of assets, in most all states, you need to have a trust. And a trust for that size of an estate is very, very inexpensive. And remember, there is a cost for probate attorneys and et cetera, could be 10 times what a trust could be. Durable powers of attorney, medical and financial, et cetera, and for children and grandchildren, advanced healthcare directives. What do you want to have happen if those decisions come up? I know that client, if he was going to be vegetative, it was DNR. There's no way that he would have wanted it any different way. Now, the kids could say, no, keep him on life support. Could drain down hundreds of thousands of dollars of assets. He didn't want that. Call out what you want. And then your current beneficiaries, who does get these funds, and then, more importantly, who doesn't. It does happen. I mean, there are instances like I spoke about, that those kind of decisions need to be made now. It is your life. It is your legacy. It should be done your way. Common excuses. I did not know we would die. My dad was in that category because he was only 56 years old. It's too complicated. It's not too complicated. It's a very diligent process. We work with board certified estate attorneys who do this every day of the week. They make it very, very simple. For the mainstream investors, we work with people that for 23 years have been putting together comprehensive estate wills and trusts for people just like you. They have a very, very informative program. Now, we don't sell, we don't administer, we don't do wills and trusts. That's a legal maneuver you need to have done by a specialist. We assist them, though, and assist you to make sure that what your wishes are properly put into the wills and trusts, and we kind of help on the financial side of it. The tax side of it, James is an expert, so he can help out there too. We have a $15 billion team of people that can help out. MBAs, CPAs, we can call on any one of those into your case. Now, what's that going to cost you? We don't charge our clients for those services. Our company supports us to support you. We have all those people on the team as an asset to me to provide a better service to you for your team. You're the coach, we're the quarterback. We're going to make sure that these players all play to win the game for you. We don't need a trust. I talked to my husband. We don't need it. Baloney. Go through the process and make that decision based on education. We don't need a trust. Do you want to be in probate? Do you want to have your assets tied up between 90 days and 2 years? Do you want to have a judge or a lawyer's deciding who's going to get your money, regardless of what your wishes were? No, you don't. What if we sell our house? It's complicated because funding the trust means we put the house inside the trust. It's simple. It's the exact same way you would sell the house from before. It's just, it's got a different designation, TTE trustee, after the signature. That's all it is. You sell the house as many times as you want. Put as many houses in and out of the trust as you want. Your car is same thing, in and out of the trust. It's very, very simple. It's too expensive. Ask that lady who didn't have a trust, who was in court for 9 months fighting every single week with her kid, with her husband's ex-family, about that whole deal. No. Ask the gentleman whose dad died in Pennsylvania. He paid over $100,000 to settle that estate. He had to go up to Pennsylvania. That didn't even include his time and trouble. He had to go up there 6 times to get the estate closed up. And that didn't even mean moving dad and mom's stuff out of the house and all the other things that goes with it. It's not too expensive, folks. Especially, we work with a 23-year-old firm that does these things every day. They will make a 1.5-inch thick leather bound estate trust for you that will incorporate every single thing that you need. All you have to do is go through and fill out the simple forms. Where do I want these assets to go? What do I want these assets to do? Have I spoken to my advisor about different tax savings? How can I eliminate the IRS from being my number one beneficiary? That all goes into that plan through that group of people that we talked about, are part of your team to make sure that this thing gets done correctly. We're not going to charge you for that. We don't sell trusts and wills. Now, the trust company will have a fee. The board certified estate attorney will have a fee. You discuss that with them. What we're here to say is it's part of an estate plan that we have to worry about. We can't control the life and the markets, but we can direct our course through this life and through these markets. We can make good decisions to protect our lifestyle and to provide a great legacy to our kids and grandkids so that they can have a great lifestyle. We like to build into your trust a way that your trust will fund their trust. So a certain portion of those assets, instead of them going out and buying a new house, a new car, a new this, and new that, a certain portion of those assets is going to be put into play to provide a trust tax-free legacy to your grandkids, then theirs can be put into play to go for your children when something happens to them, for the grandchildren. That can all be put into play in your trust now, so that this is a multi-generational benefit, not just one big party after the funeral and a new house and a new this and a new that and new this. It can really set up a family for generations, depending on the size of your current estate. High net worth people are amazed at what can happen because they don't know. They didn't even know these things even existed. I don't know. That's my favorite thing to hear in every single meeting. Click on that calendar link, book that appointment. I don't care if your estate is $500,000 or $500 million. We need to talk, get you the proper information, do an analysis, find out where you are right now. Answer those questions of why don't you want to do this, or why do you want to do this, even more importantly. An estate plan involves way more too than a will and a trust. We've only been able to cover that now. We're just coming up on overtime, so thanks for hanging in there with me. RMDs, will versus trust, RMDs to the beneficiaries. Yeah, we got to make sure that's set up correctly, because remember, Secure Act said we can no longer do for lifetime on IRAs. It's only for 10 years. So that changed things for high net worth people. Spousal and non-spousal IRA transfers, they have to be done correctly. You can get a gigantic tax penalty if you don't do these things correctly. We want to minimize taxes. I don't want the IRS to be my number one beneficiary. I want my kids and grandkids to be, and my spouse. Estate transfer and asset transfer has to be done efficiently. That's where we come into play. We know how to do that correctly, so the estate planner can put that into your will and trust so that it's going to be the biggest advantage to you and your family. But we want to take care of you first. Terminal illness, critical illness, nursing home, long-term care, final expense. Yes, all that should be decided up front. It's your legacy. We're going to take care of you first throughout your lifetime until that passing. Then the kids get what's left over. But make sure that this is part of your estate plan, which is you. And if you have a spouse, your spouse. Life insurance. It's the number one thing. If you go to any book on the shelf regarding estate planning, life insurance is number one. Well, I'm too old for life insurance. No, you're not too old for life insurance. You can add a zero and make it tax-free. This is when you're going to use life insurance. Up until now, term insurance was good. Now you want something that's going to pay and be guaranteed. Now, this is not a time to retreat. Be proactive. Take action. You're here. You stayed here. Thank you very much for staying with me. Now let's do something to help and benefit you. Coming and seeing and doing nothing doesn't help or benefit you. So, special offer number one. This is a two-part series. Number one is generalities. I hope that I've scared you enough that you need to be looking at this and think about it and talk about it. That's all we're really worried about right now. 30-minute one-on-one question and answer with me. I'll bring James on too. He is an expert at this. He has degrees in this. He has advanced studies in estate planning and tax issues. He can answer all of your questions. Number one, Q&A. We talk about your retirement needs and goals. What do you want to have happen? So right now, we're going to bring that back up. Booking time on my calendar link for a free gift. You came. Why would you not book? If you had, God forbid, cancer, and I was a cancer doctor, and I had a cancer treatment that you wanted to find out about, why would you not book an appointment to hear about it? We're not going to sell you anything. It's no cost. It's no obligation. We don't charge afterwards. If you say, well, I want to do an estate plan, what do I need to do? We're not going to start sending you a bill. So don't be scared of that. I want to remove all those barriers so that you get the help and the education that you need. So book a time right now on my calendar link. Now, I'm going to give you a gift. How much better does it get? I love educating. I love Ed Batowski's book on wealth management. A Wall Street insider on the dirty secrets of financial advisors and how to protect your portfolio. Folks, brokers do not do estate planning. Brokers sell stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, and they don't buy them back. You got to call them and say, hey, I'd like to sell these back to you. Nobody does. And if you do, they're probably going to say, you're okay. Constrained Investor, Dave Macchia, incredible book, How to Implement Most Powerful Concept in Retirement Income Planning. Your assets are for you. It's for income. Let's solve that first, and then let's look at that other piece of the pie of what's going to be left over. The Power of Zero, passing along a tax-free legacy, using a tax-free legacy. Doctor, if you might have a son that's a doctor, he's doing pretty darn good. My son is doing very well. He can actually put together a zero tax retirement plan. He can convert assets and have a tremendous income tax-free on any portion of his assets that he chooses. I have some people who could retire and completely 100% tax-free on Social Security only, and they have a $10 million estate. Because why? They got to work. Now, total cost for a traditional estate plan at RN plus the trust is around $1,200. Trusts run anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000. It depends on how big your estate and how complicated it is. We had one couple in, they had a very large estate. They needed 6 different trusts inside of their trust. Theirs was about $6,000 in the end, but it was tens of millions of dollars. So we're not going to charge you for our estate planning analysis. We're just going to go through and tell you a little bit more about where you're at in your current position after we do a proper analysis, and then suggest some things that you might be able to discover and understand hidden flaws that might be costing your family hundreds of thousands of dollars. If you want help with that, you can ask. There won't be any charge if we choose to work together. But this is a complimentary estate planning analysis. Just sit down one-on-one now, book the Calendly meeting. I'm sorry, it's a long presentation. We didn't cover half of what we need to cover yet. So go ahead and book that Calendly on my calendar right now, and we're not going to charge you for those services. A lot of people out there do. Thank you for being here tonight. Please book the Part 2 appointment on my Calendly link right now. Do one thing. Add comments. I love that when people say, hey, I'm a single female. I've got a large estate. I have 2 children. I have a handicapped grandchild. I've got these things that I'm really worried about. I want to know about that, because that means we really got through to you tonight. And now we can really start the healing process and helping you understand these things. We educate, we don't sell anything. I want you to do the learning. This is time. At this point in life, it's time for you to learn about these things so you can make educated decisions. We empower people. Women that work with me that are widows said, I never had to worry about this during my life, John. I felt so dumb. They're not dumb. They're incredibly talented ladies. They just didn't have the proper information. They were fed a bunch of malarkey not to worry about it by their friends and by their broker. When they got the real facts, it was like, well, making a decision here is easy. Surely I want the right thing for my family. So go ahead, pick a day in the upcoming week, 7 days. Don't go past 7 days, because I know what happens. 8 days, 9 days from now, you're like, John, who? Estate planning, what? My dog's got to go to the groomer. I'm not going to really worry about that. No, in the next 7 days, pick a time, pick a day, then pick a time. It's in blue. Add comments and questions and goals, and I will be looking forward to meeting you. I have a huge team of people, as you saw, that can help you. They're all waiting to help you. Please help us help you. Thank you very much for being with me tonight. I appreciate you being here. I can't wait to see the Calendly appointments tomorrow. Alicia will confirm everyone in. Please make sure you put it on your calendar and you show up. Bring your list of questions with. I'm sure you're going to have a ton of them. Thank you very much. I am out of here.